Hi guys. So this video is going to be very rambly. This is I guess, discussion type situation. 6 years ago, I made a little rambling rant discussion type video about body dysmorphia and how I was feeling at the time. When I made that video, I had basically just gotten through, I guess I'll say eating disorder. Really just a very rough time as far as the body dysmorphia goes, as far as how I looked at myself, as far as how I took care of myself. It was a not great time at that time for me. And I wanted to, I guess, follow up on it because, like I said, it's been 6 years. It has been quite a while. Things are very different now for me in the way that I think, in the way that I feel, my health is different. Everything is different. It's been 6 years. So I am kind of just touching upon the topic, I guess briefly. We'll see how long this video is. Let's be real, because sometimes when I ramble, it'll be a while. But I just felt like it was time to make this follow-up. It was time to readdress the topic because, like I said, things are very different now. I will start by saying that as much as I really wanted to outgrow my body dysmorphia, I wanted to overcome it, push past it, however you look at it. But I wanted to grow out of it very badly. I remember that time. I remember feeling that way. Maybe when I get older, things will be better. Maybe when I'm older, I'll be skinnier. Maybe when I'm older, I had put my hopes into how I would be in the future. And here it is in the future. And a lot has happened to me to change my point of view, to approach my body dysmorphia differently. And I will say, it never went away. I still deal with body dysmorphia. However, things have changed. Although I still deal with the body dysmorphia, it's nowhere as bad as it was previously. And I approach it and feel it a lot differently now. And specifically, the circumstance that changed it for me was being diagnosed with diabetes. So in April of 2021, I weighed 160 pounds. In July of 2021, I weighed 125 pounds. I was very thin. Very thin. To other people, I appeared a little sickly. You could see my rib cage. I didn't have really any breasts. I just didn't have a lot of fat on my body. And that was because at the time I did not know that I had diabetes. I did not know that my body was not properly breaking food down. And the reason that I had such a significant weight loss and dropped down to be so thin was because my body was eating away at the fat sources in my body to combat the starvation mode, to, it wasn't getting the nutrients it needed from food, so my body was essentially eating itself. So I dropped down to about 125 pounds. The body dysmorphia part of me was absolutely loving being skinny. Loved it. To a point. Because although I was like, oh my God, I'm so skinny. Oh my God. Like, I started wearing crop tops. I started not caring about what I wore. I, felt, oh my God, all these people are telling me I'm so skinny. Oh my God. It was a double-edged sword. Because on the one hand, oh, look at how thin I am. Oh, I've always wanted to be skinny. But at the same time, something was horribly wrong. I was very thin. I was very unhealthy. But because of the body dysmorphia, it wasn't until I was unhealthy and very skinny for my height, my build. I was sick. I was very thin. I was sickly. That's the best way to put it. So in August of 2021, I was diagnosed with diabetes. My A1C was 15 or 16, something like that. I think 15. The normal A1C for a healthy individual will be somewhere between 5 and 7. I was at 15. As I said, the reason for my significant weight loss and thinness was because my body was in starvation mode and it was eating itself to stay alive. So fast forward a little bit, I start insulin, my body starts to gain weight, I am starting to get healthier, and through gaining weight and gaining my body shape back, gaining through insulin use and everything else, the body dysmorphia came back with a vengeance. I was devastated by how fat I was becoming. When in reality, my body was gaining back to a healthy weight because I was so thin. I am 5'7", and at the time I was 28 years old, and I'm 5'7". 125 pounds is not a appropriate weight for that height and that age. And unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because it is really sad, I was sick and I was like skeletal and I just didn't look right. But I loved it. I loved being skinny. I thought it was great. I felt beautiful. I felt, oh, finally I'm skinny. Obviously, looking back, that's very disturbing. That's really the best word I could use. It was disturbing looking back on that. and how happy I was to be thin. It is sad that I did not outgrow my body dysmorphia. It is sad that I still deal with it. However, I now weigh maybe 165, 170 at this point. My treatment is an insulin pump. I have an insulin pump to help me regulate my blood sugar and literally stay alive. But long story short, as I started gaining weight back, back to where I should have been, because I was on insulin therapy and my body was trying to get back to normal, my body dysmorphia really devastated that process for me, because I was gaining weight. And although it was the right thing and the necessary thing, my brain and my emotional perspective, the body dysmorphia was very aggressive. I began attacking myself almost immediately. Oh my God, I'm so fat. Oh my God, I'm so fat. What the fuck? The insulin's making me fat. And it was like, instead of having the perspective of, oh my God, I'm gaining weight, things are going back to normal, I was too busy being horrified by the size that my body was returning to. I was horrified that I went from being flat-stomached and, visible rib cage to chubby. Instead of being grateful, instead of being excited, I was angry, I was sad, and I hated myself. I felt disgusting. As I gained weight back, I did, for I'd say about 2 months straight, I was going to the gym like almost every day, pretty much every other day for like a 2-month streak. But I didn't see the results that I wanted to see. I didn't see myself being thinner from going to the gym. So I gave up. I got frustrated with how fat I was, and I gave up. I stopped going to the gym. I just called myself fat every day. I talked down to myself. I was just, it was a little dark mentally. Now, it is now, oh dear God, it is now March of 2023. Sorry, I wanted to see what day today was, because I could have sworn today was the 5th. It's the 7th, but anywho. Here we are, March of 2023, a year and a few months after my initial diabetes diagnosis. As I said, I probably weigh between 165 and 170. And I'm finally content. I have the perspective that the thinness that I appreciated at the time was not thinness. It was truly sick. I was sick. The fact that I enjoyed being sick because of how skinny and cute, I guess, I felt being skinny. It was very dangerous. Very dangerous. And it makes me sad that I enjoyed it. It makes me very sad that I was so angry when I started gaining weight back on insulin. That was not the way I should have felt. That is not the way I should have reacted. And that's not the way I feel now. I still have my bad days. Especially when I look at pictures of when I weighed like 128 pounds or whatever it was, right after I was diagnosed with diabetes in October of 2021, I was in my cousin's wedding and my bridesmaid dress did not fit properly. I was like swimming in it, to be honest. I look at pictures of me in a bathing suit at 128 pounds, and then I look at myself now. And sometimes that can be super triggering. Sometimes I'll sit there and say, even though now I know better, I will still sit there and say, oh, I was so thin. And it's almost like I miss it, which obviously those reactions make me feel so guilty because I literally, I was sick. I was not healthy. I was not safe. But all I could focus on was the fucking aesthetic of the situation. All I could focus on is what I looked like. I look at that and I feel guilty and I feel sad. Because I should have never allowed my body dysmorphia to have that much fucking control over me. I should have never... Well, I say should have, coulda, woulda, let's be honest. All that really matters is that I am at a healthier range now. I still wear crop tops. I'm wearing one right now. I wear crop tops like every day. I love my little belly. I do. And especially with, I'll be honest, like at this point, wearing crop tops and stuff, it's not about what I look like. It's literally about comfort. And I'll show you why. So, oops. I have my Dexcom sensor and I have the infusion site for my pump. And I wear both on my abdomen. So at this point, it's not about feeling, sorry, I have to fix my ring light because I just moved it. There we go. At this point, it's not about, is my belly too big? Am I too fat? Should I be wearing a crop top? What does it mean to be skinny when you're diabetic? What does it mean to have borderline eating disorder while being diabetic? Because I will tell you, my relationship with food is not as healthy as it could be. My body dysmorphia has not completely gone away. Because I'll be honest, I don't know if it'll ever go away. However, I don't look at that as a dismal thing. I don't look at that as a sad, scary, it's not like a disease waiting in the wings. It's a part of your brain that you don't really have control over. The only thing you have control over is how you treat yourself and the perspectives that you choose to have. As I said, if it weren't for the diabetes, I still think I would be as obsessive and frustrated and, you know, I mean, as I said, that previous video, the one where I first discussed body dysmorphia on this channel, was from 6 years ago when I was recovering from an eating disorder. This whole diabetes thing, the weight loss and the weight gain and the weight loss and the weight gain, the fluctuation, the context of health, it's made a huge improvement on how my body dysmorphia affects me. It has made a huge improvement on how much power I give that body dysmorphia when it does come along. The thoughts, the intrusive thoughts, the food frustration, the way I treat myself, the way I talk to myself, how pretty I feel, it's not the same because of the diabetes. And in some ways, I'm grateful for that. It is unfortunate that it took being very sick for me to have a perspective change, for me to really get a hold of myself. There are still days where I'll put something on and be like, ooh, I don't know about that. But just the fact that I have experienced the weight gain that I've experienced on insulin, and I still can sit here and say oh, I'm really cute. I'm really sexy. I could wear crop tops. I could wear whatever I want. I've never felt that way before. If you told me 6 years ago to put on a crop top, I would have a panic attack. No joke. Not an exaggeration. I wouldn't even fucking think for a second. And at the time that I made that video, 6 years ago, I weighed 145 pounds. Somewhere around there. Definitely less than what I weigh now. I wasn't fat. I am not fat. But body dysmorphia doesn't work that way. Body dysmorphia does not it's really about how much power you let it have over you. But sometimes it takes a lot of work. In some ways, I am lucky that the diabetes affected me the way it did mentally. I am lucky that I am at the point now where I can care way more about my health than my stomach size. I am so lucky that I can say, oh, well, my blood sugar's good and, my A1C is good, so let's just focus on that. And, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm all better, because I'm not. Body dysmorphia does not go away. It is something that deeply affects your brain, your perspective, and literally the way you look at yourself. Not just, oh, I'm, let me look at myself a certain way. It doesn't give you a choice. It is a parasite on your brain. It hijacks your thoughts. It hijacks the way you physically see yourself. And I am very fortunate to be at the point where it comes and goes. Because in the past, 6 years ago, it did not come and go. It was with me every second, all the time. Every time I looked in a mirror was, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I was very, if you get any fatter, you should kill yourself. Because no one's ever going to think you're attractive. Horrible. Unacceptable. Scary. 6 years later, post-diabetes, I I really only feel like shit sometimes. The last time I was triggered into having, a body dysmorphia mindset was when I first started gaining weight back after starting insulin. I felt horrible about myself. But, now, a year later, and a lot of therapy later, I can at least say, regardless of whether I gain or lose weight, I love myself a lot more. I'm a lot more patient with my body because it literally took my body eating itself alive to appreciate my health. I don't know what it is. It's been a lot of personal, turning inward and forcing myself to confront my perspective, forcing myself to sit there and say, why are you calling yourself fat? Who the fuck cares if you gained weight? Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that everything's perfect because when I go to the doctor, specifically the endocrinologist that I see, when they first take you, the nurse takes you into the back, outside of the waiting room. When they take you into the back, the first thing they do is get your weight. I will very politely decline to be weighed. Or if I get weighed, I will turn away from the scale so I can't see the number. And that's if I don't say no thank you. Because my endocrinologist, I want to say a couple months ago, I was weighed. I saw the number. And I shut down. I was so embarrassed and angry and felt so disgusting all over a number that I didn't want to see. And my endocrinologist said to me, she goes, Katie, you're allowed to say no, especially if it's going to trigger you and affect the whole appointment. You are allowed to say, as a patient, no thank you, I don't wish to be weighed today. That blew my fucking mind when she told me that. She was like, it's your blood sugar and your pump data is what we need to see. Your weight is not as important as your pump data. When I go to the primary care doctor, I'm sure weight will play a more important factor in my chart. But at least for the endocrinologist, I was specifically told your weight is not very important compared to other pieces of information that we need to treat you. Should I say no every single time? No, because they do, depending on weight loss or gain, they need to catch that. However, I don't need to be weighed every single time. Or if I do get weighed, I approach it differently. Like I said, I will physically face the other way so I don't see the number on the scale thingy, because it's a digital scale, so it's like a little screen. I don't have to look at it. I could face a different direction. I can ask the nurse can cover it with her hand, because all she has to do is write it down and move on. But having a doctor tell me, you have the right to say no thank you because of how it would affect you mentally. Having that kind of power and control really helped me. you know, I think next time when I go, I will allow myself to be weighed, only because it's been like 3 months since my last appointment, whatever it is. I just feel like I have more control now, whether it be perspective wise or actual physical control over my weight. And, my relationship with food is complicated, but it's better. The hardest part, and this is going to sound a little fucked up, so nobody take this the wrong way. Just try to hear what I'm saying. It's almost impossible to have an eating disorder when you have diabetes, because your body physically will not allow you to fuck around and find out when it comes to food when you're diabetic. You need to eat or consume carbohydrates when your blood sugar is low. And you need to give yourself insulin with every meal. You need to calculate carbs. You need to be mindful of what you're eating. You need to be mindful of how much you're eating. And a lot of it requires calculation, whether it be mental calculation or actual, gotta put the carbs in the pump, gotta do some math. It is too complicated and calculating of a disease to allow yourself to slip into any form of eating disorder, because it would just, I can't even imagine. I really can't. The worst it gets for me is, oh, I'm not hungry, I don't want to eat. Oh, I'm not hungry, I don't want to eat. Oh well. Your pump is beeping, your blood sugar is below 80, have a cookie, have something. You can't not eat. You don't have a choice. And I am grateful for that. I am happy that I care more about being healthy from the perspective of my diabetes. I care way more about that than I ever will care about being thin ever again. Do I still have bad days? Do I still look at my stomach sometimes and think, well, fuck? Of course. And like I said, I'm very triggered by the actual physical number of my weight. But I problem solve. I work around it. Whatever. I am post-diabetic Katie is so much more mentally healthier than I ever was. Really at all. It's about being grateful. It is about perspective. But again, all this being said, I will not sit here and say that I outgrew my body dysmorphia. I will not sit here and say that I no longer have it. I will not sit here and say that it has no power over me anymore. That's not true. I still have it. It still has a lot to say sometimes. But just the fact that it's less powerful and less frequent than it was a year ago. I am happy with how I look right now. I am happy with my body right now. I am healthier than I have ever been. And that's because of the mental and physical work that I put into caring for my diabetes. And I don't mean this to sound fucked up, but being diabetic is like the best thing that has ever happened to my body dysmorphia perspective of my mental health, because I literally have no choice other than to take care of myself. The diabetes gives me no choice other than to care for myself. You know, again, when it comes to body dysmorphia, eating disorders, you know, the various frames of mind that come and go, I feel so much more powerful now. I feel like even when I don't always have control over my thoughts, I feel like even when the body dysmorphia rears its ugly little head, I have more power over it than I ever have before. I have more of a sense of mental stability. I'm able to catch myself when I have those thoughts. I am able to practice gratefulness to overcome those thoughts. Like, I'm at the point where I can turn around and confront the body dysmorphia parasite. I'm just going to call it a parasite because that's how it fucking feels. It's just this little piece of your brain that just rips you apart and intrusively digs into your thoughts and your self-love. And, it's some kind of mental something. I don't know if body dysmorphia is classified as a mental illness. I don't know if I have to do some research when it comes to that. I don't know where body dysmorphia falls as far as, discussing it medically. I don't know. I just know it is a mental health issue. But for the first time in my life, post diabetes, post weight gain, I have control. Not all the time, but I have way more control over it. I am able to confront it and sit there and say, you're not real. You are not how I think. You are not real. You are intrusive thoughts. You are a liar. You are you're nothing. You have no power over me. Do I feel like shit sometimes? Yeah. Do I feel fat sometimes? Yeah. But at the same time, I've never been happier with myself. I've never been more impressed with myself. I have never loved my body the way I do now. I have never cared for myself the way I do now. Diabetes has given me an incredible amount of power over my body dysmorphia and my self-reflection. And, I fought to get to where I am now, mentally and physically. I fought my way here. Fighting means different things to different people. Obviously, I did not run this marathon by myself. I have amazing doctors. I have an incredible therapist. I love her. I've been seeing her for like 4 years now. I'm not alone. And having these health journeys, both mental health and physical health, having these journeys, coming this far, you know, and I say that video was 6 years ago, but the real work that I have put to get to where I am now was in like the last year. I have given myself my power back for the most part in less than 2 years. And I struggled with body dysmorphia my whole life. I am 29 years old and am just now learning to love myself. It is sad. It is a lot of regret. It is a lot of guilt. But that's just part of the processing of it. It doesn't make you weak. Having body dysmorphia doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you pathetic. It doesn't make you, self-hatred should not be the strongest part of you. And if it is, then I wish you a healthy and impressive and powerful journey to get through it. I wish you the best because you deserve to love yourself. And, I've never been happier with my body because I recognize all the shit it's been through. I have not been a healthy person throughout my life. I just haven't. But now I'm closer than ever. Now I'm at a point where I have control. I have power. I have perspective. I have gratefulness. I have a mostly positive self-attitude, at least in the way that I treat and talk to myself. And again, I will not sit here and say that the body dysmorphia is gone. It is not. I wouldn't be surprised if I had it for the rest of my life. But for the first time in my life, I can talk over it. I can confront it. I can correct my thoughts. I can redirect my thoughts. I've never been able to do that before. And I've never been this happy with my body before. And I credit all of that to the diabetes. I credit my power and my health and my perspective, because that's what really needed the work. Not my body, my perspective. And being very sick has led me to respect myself a lot fucking more. I love myself, but do I always love myself? No, but for the first time in my life, I always respect myself. I always try to approach it with gratefulness, approach it through, it's a matter of combating the negativity with whatever you have, whether it's gratefulness or, redirection of thoughts, like whatever it takes. Like, I'm finally at that point. I still have a weird relationship with food, but because of the diabetes, it's like, I look at it differently. I have a different frame of mind. I'm almost more focused on the taking care of myself than I'm focused on my physical appearance. Which is kind of funny because I literally make makeup videos on YouTube. But specifically body-wise, body weight, how I carry that weight, how I work out, how I'm finally at a point where I have so much more control and gratefulness than I have ever had. So, so we're at 45 minutes now. I can't remember how long the original video is. It's probably just as long. But I'm here to say, just to wrap this up, I'm here to say 6 years later, yes, I still have body dysmorphia. Yes, it still deeply affects me. But 6 years later, I'm more powerful than those dark thoughts. I am more powerful than, a number on a scale. I am more focused on my health. I am more focused on keeping myself alive. I am more focused on being grateful that I am still alive. And, of all the diseases or chronic illnesses or whatever, of anything that I could have gotten, I find it to be almost humorous that I got a chronic illness that specifically targets, food and weight and, the way your body functions, struggling with food for so long, struggling with, various basically, I have mentally overcome a lot of things that I used to suffer from. I specifically use the term dealing with body dysmorphia as opposed to suffering from body dysmorphia. I used to suffer. Now I just deal with it. Because at the end of the day, I'm at the point where the body dysmorphia is an inconvenience. It's bullshit. It's an inconvenience. Yes, it's there, but I don't have time for that. That's amazing to me. Considering the hold it had on me for almost my whole life. I am happy to be saying these things that I'm saying now, 6 years after that original video. Yes, me getting diabetes is unfortunate. Yes, having a chronic illness fucking sucks. Yes, it takes a lot of maintenance and hard work to be healthy when you have diabetes. However, I don't consider myself to be suffering anymore. Mentally, at least. Because I'm more powerful now. I have more control over the way I look at myself. And that's really all there is to it. Body dysmorphia doesn't go away. It just doesn't. What changes is your perspective. What changes is your self-love. That's what changes. So yeah, it sucks that I still have it. But it's an inconvenience now. It doesn't have a hold over me. It's not more powerful than my gratefulness. It is not more powerful than the diabetes. It is not more powerful than my health, my hunger, whatever. It's an inconvenience now. And it feels really good to be able to say that. So that's that. If you yourself struggle with body dysmorphia, it doesn't last forever. Will you always have it? Unfortunately, probably. But it won't control you forever. It will not rip you apart forever. It comes and goes. And it's up to you to learn the perspective tools, the mental tools. It's up to you to figure out what those are. And it's up to you to figure out how much power you're willing to give those dark thoughts. It's up to you to figure out, how to combat the darkness with gratefulness, with logic. It's not an overnight thing. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you it is. Like I said, most of the work, the mental work that I have done to get to this point was in the last 2 years. Less than 2 years it took me to get to this point. It's not impossible, but it is difficult. So, if you're struggling and you happen to find this video for whatever reason, I wish you the best, because you will be okay. You will overcome it. You just have to accept that it is part of your brain and it will not go away. That doesn't make it more powerful than you, though. Just because you have it, and just because you'll always have it, does not make it more powerful than you. It is an inconvenience to your overall perspective. It is an inconvenience to your self-love. But it is not impossible to overcome it. It is not impossible to still love yourself. So, yeah. Thanks for joining me.